Hey everybody, it's Jason with Parallel Reality coming back here with you today for maybe what's a slightly different story than the usual stuff, but something that kind of annoyed me all the same. So the story is from blabbermouth.net from April 20th, and Blabbermouth, just so people know, is a heavy metal hard rock site. I am a metalhead, have been for 30 plus years at this point, and I tend to go to Blabbermouth for it's news, really. Um, I don't know why though, considering like after 2016, all of the heavy metal sites that everybody knows, like Blabbermouth, for example, Loudwire, Metal Injection, Metal Sucks, all went woke, and started going at least way to the left, to the point where part of what I'm going to go over in this article is that for Blabbermouth specifically, anytime they see a chance to attack someone who is conservative in the rock and metal industry, they take it, and their headlines tend to be very much in that vein. So, like, if you see an article about Ted Nugent, it's usually like, okay, like we know he's a rocker, but why is that something that needs to be on this site? Like, the news itself has nothing to do with music other than it has to do with Ted Nugent. And they say the same thing about, I see stuff about Aaron Lewis, who is this gentleman right here, all the time as well. And the other one that I keep seeing a lot is with John Cooper from the band Skillet, who I don't actually listen to them, but I see it all the time with him. He's the bassist and vocalist for the band, and he's, a Christian conservative. And I can't tell you how many headlines I've seen from Blabbermouth that says Christ-loving frontman or Jesus-loving frontman of Skillet, something like that. Something that's very condescending. So I wanted to bring this up because it's just something that, like I said, it's something that annoys me. And what the title of the article is, Sustains Mike Mushak, who is the guitarist, he is right here, and Aaron Lewis does play guitar, and he's the vocalist for the band as well. It says, on Aaron Lewis's political views, and again, Aaron Lewis is a conservative, it says people in the audience know who he is and what he says. And it's like, obviously these guys wouldn't be in a band with the dude if they didn't like him. So, so regardless of where Mike Mushak stands, and I don't know what his political views are, and frankly, I don't give a shit. Again, if he didn't like Aaron Lewis, he'd be like, I'm not going to be in a band with you. And part of this too, and I'm sure I think I remember the article saying this, is that they're putting out Stained, that is putting out their first album in, I think it's like a decade. So it's like they wouldn't come back together if they didn't like the guy because of his political views. So as far as what I know about Stained, which is not a huge amount, I did have some of their albums like when they first got popular, like I think it was like in the late 90s or early 2000s, kind of like when nu metal became a thing, like with Slipknot and Limp Bizkit and that type era bands. That they put out a bunch of albums, like 6 or 7 albums maybe, and then disappeared. They kind of went on hiatus for a bit and are coming back now. And then Aaron Lewis went in that intervening period and decided to focus on being a country music artist. And actually, as far as I know, has been pretty successful at it. So good for him, able to completely change genres and do that. So let's just go into the article here. It says, in a new interview, Jason Bally of Odyssey Check-In podcast, that's what it is, okay. The Stained guitarist Mike Mushak was asked if he ever had discussions with his bandmate, Stained frontman Aaron Lewis, about not being so vocal about his political views during Stained shows. He responded, there's not really a conversation about that. I mean, I do feel like, and even Aaron said, he goes, my country career is really where I stand with that. Stained, not so much. That's something that he's kind of said. So, I mean, listen, people in the audience know who Aaron is and what he says. So sometimes that comes up. Certain chants will happen during our shows from time to time, and whatever. And yeah, I mean, the people in the crowd tend to not really give a crap either about what these guys have to say. I mean, you can even see that there's other musicians who are openly either libertarian or conservative. And I think, for example, someone like Phil Labonte of All That Remains, who's their vocalist, he's very much a libertarian and has some conservative views, has some liberal views as well, but he's very open about it. No one cares, And I mean, isn't metal all about rebellion? So it's like, why wouldn't you be a conservative? Like, that's what you should be in the industry. And one of the things that I thought was really telling, not necessarily this article, but something from a different band, is a band called Exodus. People, if you don't know them, they are essentially contemporaries with Metallica and the early thrash metal movement. So they're from the Bay Area as well. And the band leader there is a guy named Gary Holt, who also played guitar in Slayer after Jeff Hanneman passed away. And Gary Holt is not a fan of Trump, but he's not a leftist. He's not a conservative. He's kind of more a center. And there was an interview actually on Blabbermouth a while ago. It was probably at least a year or two ago, probably maybe even longer, where somebody asked him in an interview, like, about the political views of the band, and he came out and he's like, I may not like Trump, but he's like, I'm a centrist. He's like, 3 of the guys in the band voted for Trump. And I don't remember. I know the X's vocalist is a Trump guy, but I don't remember which other 2 guys are. And he's like, and he said whatever the guy was who voted for Hillary, because I think it was back then. I don't think or Biden, one of the 2 was voted for a Democrat, whatever. And he's like, but we're all friends. And he's like, we talk about these things, but we're friends at the bottom. At the end of the day, he's like, it doesn't matter, And he's like, I may not like someone else likes someone. He's like, it's not a big deal. And I thought that, like, that's exactly how you need to treat it. It's like, who cares what his political views are? Like, none of these people think anything insane, or crazy or out of this world. They think perfectly normal things. Like, they're just normal conservatives. And I've never seen Aaron Lewis say anything that I would be like, okay, he's a conservative, but whoa, to that sort of thing. Like, it's never bothered me, but again, I don't really look at his career that much, but like, I just don't see what the problem is with it. And again, if you're in an industry or in a music genre that's known for rebellion, what better thing to be than a conservative, quite frankly. But anyway, article continues. Says last December, Mushak was asked by Loaded Radio podcast how he feels about Lewis publicly voicing his political views. He responded, listen, Aaron is a very opinionated person. He feels he needs to go out there and say what his opinion is. And listen, he's got the right to do that, right? Yes, he does. He absolutely 100% has every right to do that, regardless of the side of the political spectrum he's on. It says, at some of his recent solo concerts, Aaron has been playing a new song called Let's Go Fishin', whose lyrics find the 51-year-old, an outspoken conservative rocker who reinvented himself as a solo country artist in the last decade, singing about making America great again, turning off CNN, and using the Let's Go Brandon catchphrase, which was coined by American conservatives to criticize Joe Biden. No, that is actually a factually incorrect statement there, Blabbermouth. You should probably correct that. That was not coined by American conservatives. That was actually coined during a NASCAR race, where somebody, it was actually an NBC News, it was a female personality, said, like, the crowd was chanting F Joe Biden, but saying the actual F word. And the NBC announcer lady, or the interviewer to the driver, was like, oh, listen to this crowd. They're saying, let's go Brandon, because the driver's name that she was interviewing, his name was Brandon, and you could clearly hear the crowd saying F Joe Biden. So her saying, oh, they're saying let's go Brandon, is like, either you're dumb or you're just trying to deflect from what they're actually saying, like you don't understand English properly or whatever. So conservatives ran with it from there because it was funny. Okay, it was like this, they decided to substitute let's go Brandon for the F Joe Biden as a more politically a correct version of the same thing. So no, this was not coined by American conservatives to criticize President Joe Biden. It was coined by that announcer, and conservatives essentially appropriated it, if you will. So that's a factually incorrect statement that you have in your article, Blabbermouth. So in November 2021, Lewis claimed that he beat COVID-19 by taking ivermectin, a drug with no evidence of being a safe or effective treatment for the novel coronavirus, which that is also an incorrect statement. It actually is. And we know that because other people have taken it and been fine. And I think it might be, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on this, it's actually shown to be a thing that does help against that at this point. So again, Blabbermouth, you're showing your liberal bias. So then the article continues. He said that he also used Z-Pak, an antibiotic used to treat bacterial infections by inhibiting the growth of bacteria in the body. Okay. Says Lewis made headlines in September 2021 when he urged his fans to chant F Joe Biden during a Staind concert in Philadelphia. I'm sure Pennsylvanians actually were okay with that, and probably will be more so now, given that their whole energy, which they are, is kind of one of their main industries, is their energy industry has essentially been taken away. This is in March 2022. Lewis told the Los Angeles Times that he doesn't blindly listen to information that is delivered by the mainstream media. Good for him. He said, I'm not uneducated. I'm actually really smart and I look for myself. I seek other options of information. He said, I refuse to believe that a huge, gigantic corporation has our best interest in mind. He's not wrong. As for where he gets his news, Lewis said, it looks like it actually says Lulz there. I'm sorry, that's why I hesitated there for a second. So it says Lewis said, I have news feeds and people that I follow on Telegram: Dan Ball, Andrew Wilkow, Mark Levin. I've heard of the Andrew Wilkow guy. I know who Mark Levin is. I don't know Dan Ball. Says, if I'm going to watch any sort of news source on television, it's Tucker Carlson. Of course, everybody knows who Tucker is. Says, pressed about whether Fox News is an exception to his mistrust of corporations, Aaron said, I think that if Tucker didn't have the following he has, he'd be gone. He's pretty much anchoring the network at this point. Says, at some of his recent solo concerts, Lewis has been taking the stage. Looks like it says Lulz again. Damn it. Says, Lewis has been taking the stage while wearing a black hat with white mesh and white lettering on the front, clearly stating "F you, Joe," an expletive directed toward Biden. Okay, and if someone, I mean, how many times at like a Trump, or I'm sorry, at a concert, like, did you see people probably doing the same things towards Trump? And that's fine. They're allowed to do it. Okay. So during a March 2022 solo concert in Ohio, Lewis, who has frequently targeted Democratic politicians and touted his anti-COVID vaccination position. Okay, it's a position like half the country holds, but okay, that's not like it's a, in a position that not a lot of people hold. Like, he's a small percentage. That's actually a pretty big percentage of people. Says he waited on the Russian invasion of Ukraine, urging his fans to question everything. I say that to people all the time. In fact, it was one of the earliest lessons I told my nephew, was to question everything. There's nothing wrong with that. And loudly wondering if we should listen to what Vladimir Putin is saying. Yeah, it's maybe a little too far, but okay. Says Lewis also promoted discredited social media videos that purported to show actors pretending to be dead in the midst of the war and Ukrainian soldiers holding wooden guns. I don't know about that, but given that it's Blabbermouth, and in this article we've already seen a couple of misconceptions, or a couple of outright falsehoods, I should say, I'm not so sure I would believe what they're writing there. So, article goes on, says last September, Mushak told Atlantic City Weekly that both he and Lewis will continue to pursue other projects. Mushak with Saint Asonia, the band he co-founded in 2015 with former 3 Days Grace singer Adam Gontier, and Lewis with his solo country career, alongside their long-running outfit. And Confessions of the Fallen, it's Stain's first new studio album since 2011, will arrive in September via Alchemy Records /BMG. Okay, and it keeps going on about Stain and that, and then Stain is going on tour with Godsmack, and Godsmack also has a frontman, Sully Erna, who's very much a wrong thinker, if you will, who probably, I don't know if he's an outright conservative, but he definitely leans in that direction. But yeah, so I don't, like, this is just one of those things again where it's like, you get a I guess for the metal industry, a mainstream metal publication just shitting on a guy because he happens to be conservative, and they're trying to get his roommate. I was going to say teammate, then I said roommate, and I meant to say bandmate, trying to shit on him for that. And he's just like, he's allowed to say what he wants to say. And it's like, well, yeah, that's basically the answer. And, I guess that's really kind of it. But what do you guys think about this? And I mean, more or less, it's not like necessarily this specific situation, but just about, rockers being able to speak their mind again. I don't care. Even if I was to go to a show and someone was to be like, F DeSantis or F Trump, I'd be like, I don't like it, but he's allowed to say that. And I'm not going to go running and screaming out of there or start, or curl up into a fetal position and start crying over it. It is what it is. And I can't imagine if I was in a band with someone that held different political beliefs than me, that if someone came up to me and was like, well, what do you think about him saying that? I can't imagine my answer would be anything other than, is he not allowed to say that? Like, I may not agree with him, but he's my friend. So, yeah, that's pretty much what I think about this. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe. Talk to you soon. Bye.